Tonight on Jungleland, we discuss Idaho State softball, the defending Big Sky champs looking to defend a crown. The state of men's and women's basketball. Was 2024 a success or disappointment? And we look ahead towards the second football season under ISU head coach Cody Hawkins, looking to do what few have done before. All that and more on the show of record for Idaho State sports, coming up on Jungleland. Good evening, I'm McLean Westbrook, and welcome to Jungleland, the leading Idaho State University sports news show. Our top story tonight, our defending Big Sky regular season champion Idaho State softball team is off to another strong start to open up the 2024 season. The Bengals are under second-year head coach Andrew Rich, who led the team to a regular season championship before ultimately losing a heartbreaker to Northern Colorado in the tournament final. Their 2024 conference schedule was supposed to begin this weekend at home against Portland State. These games were moved to Boise, however, because of ongoing construction at Idaho State's home field, Miller Ranch. We went out to softball practice and spoke to Coach Rich about how the team is adjusting to changes this season. Spring is in the air, but at Miller Ranch Stadium, softball is not. The Bengals softball stadium is currently undergoing renovations ahead of the team hosting the Big Sky Conference Championships this May. Improvements will include a new backstop that will improve visibility for fans, a new scoreboard, and an updated press box. While that work is being done, Bengals softball has been practicing on the football practice field outside of Holt Arena. It's a change that head coach Andrew Rich says isn't going to slow down the team.
The practice field's great. It's a chance for us that we can set up a field. We have a great new, batting. It's called a turtle, just a hitting shell basically that's protecting all the cars that are around the field from foul balls and things like that. But no, getting out there and just getting outside is the biggest thing for us. Obviously, we want to be on a real field, and we'd like to be up at our field. And we'll get that opportunity starting next week to start practicing up there. But that gets the job done for right now.
It's certainly a sacrifice Bengals softball is willing to make to host the Big Sky Championship. Coach Rich says hosting the tournament means a lot for the program.
It's huge. It's it gives us that home field advantage, gives us a chance to play in front of our hometown fans and our families, and get a good crowd out here to support us. When we're playing throughout that thing. And I think our style of play is set up really well for our field and our facility. And so it just gives us that extra little edge, and I know our players really love the opportunity to play in front of their fans here and get good crowds and see the berm filled up with people. So we're really excited about that opportunity in May.
The team is attempting to repeat as regular season conference champs, but this time win the tournament as well. It's a goal Coach Rich thinks is certainly attainable.
Yeah, we got to keep playing well in all three phases of the game. I think that's something that we've done in spurts here and there throughout the non-conference part of the year so far. We've had a few games where we've pitched well but not hit so well, hit really well but not pitched so well, and the defense has been there here and there. But when we play really well in all three phases, we're an extremely tough team to beat. And so that's just playing complementary softball and taking care of business in all three phases of the game. Will put us in a really good spot and give us a chance in the regular season and that week in May when we're trying to win the conference championship.
Reporting from Holt Arena, I'm McLean Westbrook. The Big Sky Conference Softball Championship will be held May 8th through May 11th at Miller Ranch Stadium in Pocatello. Well, while one Big Sky tournament is coming up, others have ended. The Idaho State women's and men's basketball teams both had their season finales this month at the Big Sky Tournament in Boise. Let's start with the men who had a tournament for the ages. After some tough losses late in the season, the story of 2024 is how ISU men's hoops dominated the first two rounds of the Big Sky Tournament. Ryan Looney's squad pulled things together at the perfect time and won not just one, but two conference tournament games for the first time in almost 40 years. Overall, the regular season was not bad for ISU. You could tell by the end of the year, ISU was playing some really good competitive basketball, even though they lost several close games. With just 3 games left at the end of the season, the Bengals were close to securing a first-round bye in the conference tournament, but they lost those last 3 games to Northern Arizona, Northern Colorado, and Montana. and that put them in a seed where they then faced those same 3 teams in that same order in the postseason tournament. And it was time for some sweet revenge. In their first game, the Bengals trailed Northern Arizona 28-26 going into halftime, but pulled away in the second half, extending the lead by as much as 14 points. Led by Braden Parker's 18 points, they beat the Lumberjacks 68-60 and secured their first tournament win since 2020. Up next for the Bengals was the 2-seeded Northern Colorado Bears, making the task of getting ISU's first semifinals appearance since 2009 and their first time winning multiple tournament games in 37 years not an easy one. Or so it seemed. After starting the game down 7-0, the Bengals came roaring back and stayed in the lead for the rest of the way. Miguel Tomley scored 28 points to lead the Bengals to an improbable 83-76 win and send the team to the semifinals. Bengal fever reached an all-time high as fans made it out to Boise for the matchup with the Montana Grizzlies. But that's where ISU's luck would run out. Montana never trailed in the game, and while the Bengals put up a valiant effort, they lost to the Grizzlies 72-58. Montana would go on to lose the championship game to Montana State, who were crowned Big Sky champions for the 3rd consecutive year. But just as ISU men's basketball reached its highest point in years, things changed once the offseason arrived. In the first week following the Bengals' exit from the conference tournament, 8 players entered the transfer portal, including Miguel Tomley, who set the new ISU single-season three-pointer record, and Malik Arrington, who led the team in minutes played and was one of 2 unanimous selections to the Big Sky All-Conference defensive team. In total, more than 10 Bengals entered the transfer portal following the season. In a conversation with Idaho State Journal's Brad Bugger, Looney acknowledged the task ahead of recruiting this offseason, while also noting that as a head coach, he expects to recruit at least half a roster every year. Looney's already had some success, getting a commitment from Cam Slaymaker, a 6'4" shooting guard coming from Southern Nazarene University. Only time will tell how the rest of recruiting will work out for the Bengals. Meanwhile, the Idaho State women's basketball team had a strong start to their conference schedule this year, starting out 6-3 against Big Sky opponents, but ended up finishing the season at 1-8 in their last 9 games to finish at 7-11 in conference and secure the 7th seed in the tournament. The Bengals would face the 8-seeded Sacramento State Hornets in the first round. Casey Spink led the way for the Bengals with 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. A Sac State three-pointer tied the game up at 48 with 7.5 minutes to go. Sac State ended up pulling away, outscoring the Bengals 25-7 the rest of the way to win 73-55. There is still reason for Bengal fans to have hope going into next year, however, as a young team under 3-time conference champion coach Seton Sobolewski looks to improve. The 1-seeded Eastern Washington Eagles ended up winning the Big Sky Women's Tournament. Now that we've got you caught up on the latest ISU sports news and storylines for this spring, we're going to take a look at the upcoming football season this fall. After the break, I'll be joined in the studio by our resident expert to preview Cody Hawkins' second year as head coach. That is up next on Jungleland.
Huh. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Everybody knows that.
Well, did you know that former pro football player Icky Woods will celebrate almost anything?
Number 44.
Woo! 44, that's me! Get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts. Woo! Give me some!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
44, ladies, that's me! Woo! Gonna get some cold cuts today.
Welcome back to Jungleland, the leading Idaho State University sports news show. I'm McLean Westbrook, and I'm joined by our resident expert when it comes to all things Bengals athletics, Franklin Spicer. Thank you for being here today, Frank.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing good myself.
Awesome.
Frank is involved in ISU's student section as well as the athletic department, so he's well aware of the developments around the program. Frank, let's start with the question that's on everyone's mind. Can head coach Cody Hawkins improve on his first year record of 3-9?
I definitely think so. I think it's very possible. You know, the football team has been going uphill lately, and there's a lot of hype around the community, and all the coaches and players seem happy, and so I'm excited to see what's up and coming.
Cody's only in his second year at ISU. What do you think he brings as a young coach to the table to kind of help rebuild this team?
Well, obviously, he has an offensive mind, because he was a QB in college and he worked under his dad as offensive coordinator at UC Davis. One of his biggest strengths is probably recruiting and just the charisma that he brings to the team. He builds a family community and a family environment.
That's right. We've already seen Hawkins recruit out of Idaho a little bit with Davis Harson out of Eagle High School.
Yeah. He's good at recruiting, like I said, just like locally and from other places like California too, because he knows the area as well.
Not only did ISU's football stadium, Holt Arena, undergo renovations recently, it's not Holt Arena anymore. It was renamed. It's now the ICCU Dome. And I know some fans might be a little disappointed with change, but that deal to rename it can really help the team when it comes to scheduling. Is that right?
Yeah. So with the renaming of the Holt Arena to the ICCU Dome, before we were having to play 2 games against higher division teams, like from the FBS. Like this last season, it was San Diego State and Utah State. Now we only had to play 1. And so we play Oregon State this season, but no more FBS teams after that. We actually play a Division II team, which gives some of our guys down the depth chart a little bit more experience in playing in an actual game.
And that Division II game, that's against Western Oregon to open the season, right?
Yes, the GNAC conference.
Awesome. So can we get some of your predictions for this season? What are we thinking?
I don't know. I'm feeling very enthusiastic about this season.
We thinking Big Sky title, maybe?
I look at the schedule, I look at other teams' schedules, and I think that we can definitely be up there. I would expect I'm thinking 6 wins this season at least, and then if we're looking really good, I think we're going to bring some rivalry games home against Idaho and Weber State, and possibly even talks about a playoff appearance.
Hey, I'll settle for 2 wins if they're against Weber and Idaho. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we had 1 win before Hawkins came here, 3 wins in his first year, another 2-win improvement, maybe 3 wins puts us at 5 or 6. That's a fantastic start to the Hawkins era here at ISU.
Yeah, we got a lot of hope and belief in him. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, Franklin. Up next, for a deeper look into the football program, we're going to talk to someone who's been on the team. We'll be right back with former offensive lineman Mike Davis.
Think we should run it again?
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome back to Jungleland, the leading Idaho State University sports news show. And as we wrap up the show today, I'm joined by former Idaho State offensive lineman Mike Davis. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
No problem, man. I'm happy to be here.
Well, Mike, you finished up your career at Idaho State playing football. Tell us a little about what it was like playing as a Bengal.
It was everything you can dream of. If you're from Idaho and you get to play with Idaho across your chest, Idaho State, I should say. Idaho State across your chest, I mean, there's nothing better.
Yeah, we don't want to mix up Idaho State.
No,
we don't. So, in your time on the team had a lot of ups and downs. You played with 3 different head coaches in your career. What do you think it is with this new coach coming in, Cody Hawkins? What do you think is unique about his approach to the game?
His approach to the game is really cool because of the offense that he runs, and I would just say his recruiting is really good, and how he kind of gets the community involved is better than anything I've experienced since I've been here.
Yeah, we've already seen him recruit some out of Idaho and then out of the surrounding states too. So you're no longer on the team, of course.
No.
But I assume you're still keeping up with some of your old teammates. You're still talking about the state of the program.
Yeah, I just checked it junior day today. Just wanted to check in and see how everyone was doing, and there was over 100 kids from all over the state, and I think from other states that just all wanted to come down and see our junior day.
That's pretty good.
That's huge.
How does that compare to some past junior days you've been a part of?
It blows them out of the park.
Nice. So I assume you kind of have an eye on the team. You know some of the teammates on there. What's kind of the expectation heading into this year, do you think?
Well, that's always tough because you have years where you're like, okay, we're supposed to be really good, so let's take a shot at the Big Sky Championship this year, and then a lot of stuff can happen to where that doesn't happen. So I'd say the biggest thing that we're hoping that people focus on is staying here, progressing, getting better every day, and winning a couple more games, and focusing on the game at the time, not worrying about like, okay, we play Oregon State and then we're going to play Western Oregon. Like, you can't count wins and losses by just looking at the schedule. You have to count them by week. It's like, the gambler. You can't count your cards while you're sitting at the table. You have to play the game, and then you can add that to the record.
Okay, so we don't want to count wins and losses. We want to week by week.
Right.
But if you had to look forward to the entire season, if you had to make a singular prediction about maybe a record this year, what would you say?
Man, that is tough. Let's see. So there's 12 games this year. I'd like to say 6-6.
Yeah, we have that game against Western Oregon now.
We do, and that'll be helpful. I'd like to say 7-5 because that'd be cool. We beat Oregon State. That'd be awesome.
Exactly. Of course, we're going to beat Oregon State.
Right. Of course, Corvallis.
And then, of course, 6 or 7 wins. Whoever you get those from, that puts you on borderline playoff territory in the FCS.
6 wins is pretty much. Actually, I think it's 7 D1 wins is usually the cusp. So if you have 6 or 7 D1 wins, you're in line to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, and at that point, you look at some of the other schools around the conference. You might even be challenging for the conference later into the season if you can get to that 6 or 7 wins.
Exactly, and that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah. So with your time on the team, talking to connections that you have any insider knowledge, perhaps, on maybe some offensive scheming this year you could share? Starting quarterback, we know anything?
I have no idea on who the starting QB will be.
They're keeping that pretty...
They're keeping that under wraps. I know that they want to run the ball a lot more this year, and they have gotten a lot more offensive linemen, which is great. Like, now there's depth at that position. Guys will get breaks. Guys won't get hurt, which is great. And the most important piece of that is we have a lot of athletic guys that are great in pass pro, but they're also really physical. So the run game should pull through a little bit more, and that'll be a lot more fun for the hard-nosed fans of Pocatello to watch.
Blue collar.
Exactly.
So you didn't even spend your whole career as an offensive lineman. You transitioned from a tight end. So what do you think was kind of the state of the offensive line in your time there?
When I was a tight end or an offensive lineman?
When you transitioned.
When I transitioned, it was pretty good. We had a lot of JUCO guys come in. We had a new coach, Coach Weber, and he was awesome. He was the best coach that I've had here ever. He was very knowledgeable, very personable. But it was really young. It was a really young group. I was by far the oldest, and then the left guard was a junior, but he was a JUCO transfer, so he hadn't ever played a D1 game. The center, same story. The right guard was a redshirt freshman, and then the right tackle was a true freshman. And so I was 4 years older than everybody on the offensive line, and from what we had, we did a really, really good job. Like, we gave up a lot of sacks, but when you looked at it from the perspective of like passing attempts to sack ratio, we had the fewest in the Big Sky. So that was a big deal.
All right. Well, it sounds like there's a lot to look forward to this season. You heard it here from Mike Davis. He guarantees at least 7 wins on the schedule this year. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
No problem.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's former offensive lineman Mike Davis from the ISU football team. We'll be right back after this.
At home with Baker Mayfield.
Good boy. No bags.
See, I left the bags inside. I was gonna go inside and grab them and come back out. I'll be right back.
And finally tonight on Jungleland, a scary moment from the Big Sky Conference basketball tournaments. University of Montana mascot Monty the Bear decided to ride the rapids of Idaho Central Arena in a kayak. I should warn you, this video is a little grisly. I've always thought the best thing about live sports is that things can get a little hairy at times. Here we were covering wild animals kayaking the stadium seats, and a basketball game broke out. I'm not really sure what Monty was expecting here. There's really only one way this could have gone, and that was it. Montana, they came up close to winning the trophy in the tournament, but they ended up falling just short. They said it was more than they could bear. Well, at any rate, you've been watching Jungleland, and we will see you next time on the leading Idaho State University sports news show.